Hello, I'm Jane King at the New York Stock Exchange. DealHub's AI-powered platform empowers sales and revenue organizations to operationalize go-to-market strategies and accelerate growth by orchestrating multifaceted revenue streams through a unified platform. It was built for today's dynamic real-time selling environments, and DealHub enables organizations to adopt and scale diverse revenue models, including direct and partner-led sales, product-led growth, usage-based pricing, and self-serve e-commerce portals. An AI agent-driven insight powers intelligent pricing, discounting, and commercial decisions, sharpening pipeline predictability and revenue precision. And with me is Eyal Orgil, the co-founder and chief product officer, to fill in some of the details here about DealHub. And for our viewers that aren't familiar, Eyal, tell us what DealHub does exactly and what specific problems you're solving.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. DealHub is a quote to revenue platform. Basically, what that means is we're taking care of all the different steps that are happening from the initial quote the salesperson puts out, all the way to managing the revenue of the organization, even to the point of the invoicing and the billing aspect of things. So putting things into a little perspective, it falls into a few different sort of solutions today. There's a CPQ, which stands for configure price quote. That's the idea of how you go and build out the actual quote. So how do you put the right products together? How do you put the right pricing together? How do you get the right that optimal pricing, not just any pricing, the right pricing that's going to get you the deal? There may be legal terms that have to be put together as part of a proposal. So we want to make sure that's included in there. Someone has to approve it. You're putting in different aspects into your proposal, pricing, discounting, things of that sort. How do you go and do that? And then generating the content that goes out to a customer. So that could be in the format of a document, Word, PDF document, or in a digital experience as well, something we call a deal room, or it's known today as sales rooms. And then through the process of managing to know if you've got subscriptions or recurring business that you're doing, how do we manage that? How do we understand the revenue that's generated from that? And even all the way through to billing. So it's really a process that takes you completely across the way from initial quote all the way to recognizing the revenue and also getting that money from the customer through your invoicing process.
Okay. So what would you say makes DealHub or differentiates the company, the platform, from some of the other CPQ and quote to revenue market companies?
Well, what we did is we really took a step back when we designed the solution. We said, who are the different personas, the different players involved in the process? You've got salespeople, you've got managers, you've got operations people, you've got end customers. So how can we adapt to each one of those? So we looked at each one of those individuals and say, how do we get the right solution for them? So if I'm a salesperson, I want things easy, I want intuitive, I want something that's going to give me the value that I need, but don't make me change things too much. I don't like change. So how do we adapt the solution or generate a solution that's going to be able to support them, that they can go and do the things that they want? They need some creativity, some flexibility in how they do things. They're salespeople after all. We want them to sell, but we want them to sell in the right way. So how can we put some governance around things, yet still give them the flexibility to go do what they want? If I'm a manager, how do I go and set up the system? I want to get time to value is quick. I don't want something that I'm investing in today and I'm only getting the value next year. So I want something that's up and running quickly. But more importantly, as my business processes change, as the reality of the world changes, I need to adapt the way my business is operating. So how do we give them the flexibility and the ability to go in and adapt quickly? So we want something that's not only set up quickly, but it changes and keeps in pace with the real-time business changes. Because if anything is, a standard today, it's change in the business world. So we want to keep pace with that. And then from an end customer perspective as well, we also look at what do end customers want? Well, they don't want the same old experience. Everybody's giving them the same experience. How do I get something that's a little bit different? And if we look at the world today, people expect, just like they're buying on the internet, it's a B2C type of experience. I want to be able to research things on my own. I want to be able to select my own things on my own. So how do we take that experience that they're expecting in the world when they're at home, and how do we bring that into the business world? And that's where we've also given some flexibility to how do we go and engage with customers, share content with them, and give them that comfort feeling that they want as buyers in a B2B experience. So it's really about differentiating yourself, is making sure you're addressing all the different needs of all your different personas involved in the process. And that's where we've been very successful in that process.
And I've heard that sometimes companies will struggle with user adoption when they're implementing CPU and quote to revenue solutions. So you kind of explained this, but elaborate on that a little bit. How does DealHub approach that differently?
Well, part of what I was saying a moment ago, it's really about understanding the different personas and being able to give them what the value that they need. Like, as I said, if I'm a salesperson, give me something that I don't have to be trained on for a long time. Give me a solution that doesn't change the way I work. Don't move the cheese on me, if I can use that expression. Don't change things that I have to adapt myself to what the solutions that you implemented, but get me a solution that actually lets me work the way I want to work, I know how to get value out of things. Let me work the way that I want to work. So if I want to go and generate a document in a certain way, why am I being limited to that? Maybe I need to present a certain way because that's what the customer is expecting of me, to give them something in that way. So salespeople are not cookie cutters. They need to get something that's exactly fitted to what they need to, or give them the flexibility to do that. Yes, of course, there are guardrails, and that's super important. An organization needs to put guardrails in place of what a sales rep is allowed to do or not allowed to do, but they need to get that flexibility. And that's where you're going to find where people will start to, really take on solutions, is when you're giving them the flexibility to do that. So that's really where we've gone and differentiate ourselves, is really looking at to understand the different users. And as we evolve the solution as well, constantly making sure that we go back and check, are we still in tune with what we're trying to do, making sure people have that flexibility to work how they want to.
Yeah. Have buyer expectations changed with technology? And if so, how is DealHub adapting to that?
Oh, definitely. I think we've seen a lot of changes. If anything, the biggest thing you probably hear about in the last number of years is consolidation. And I think that comes from a few different fronts. If it's CFOs looking to cut back on costs, why am I buying, the tech stacks today, or the sales stacks that organizations have are just incredible. You look at the maps of the different kinds of solutions just for one market, and there's often tens or hundreds of solutions. So how can you go get to a situation where you can consolidate a lot of those different tools? So that comes in from a financial aspect of things. I'm buying other tools. Why do I have to have a different tool for every different thing? But it also comes into other areas of cost or friction, even within the organization. I've got to set up different tools. I've got to maintain different tools. I've got to integrate all of these different solutions into my back end. I've got to train users on multiple different solutions. So really, we've seen a lot of aspects from consolidation. And that's where DealHub, from day one, and as we've continued to evolve the solution, we really look at that consolidation aspect. So today, our platform incorporates what oftentimes are multiple different solutions. So we've got a solution that does CPQ, configure, price, quote. We can generate a document. That's often another solution called document generation. There's subscription management, the ability to maintain the solutions. There's contract lifecycle management, CLM. How do I build out the contracts the way it needs to be built and store those contracts? The digital deal rooms or sales rooms today, that's also included in one solution. E-signature, the ability to go and sign off right there. I don't need another DocuSign. We can integrate with a DocuSign, for example, but I don't necessarily need that. And even the billing solution. So we've really provided a very wide breadth of capabilities so that you have the ability to take one solution, that'll get you across the process from initial quoting all the way through to that invoicing. And that's really something that organizations are looking for today. And it gives us a lot of value when we go to customers, because they can really have one solution to address all those different needs.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking, it's kind of a soup to nuts approach. So now there has been a surge in companies lately that have been shifting to product-led growth, consumption-based pricing, e-commerce models. What challenges does that create for the quote to revenue process, and how is DealHub dealing with that?
Well, there's definitely a lot more different sales models out there, a lot more different sales motions that are going out there. Like you mentioned, PLG, product-led growth. I want to be able to buy something right from within the product. E-commerce platforms, like people coming in through different portals and all that. So it comes into a number of aspects. Is one, you want to be able to quote in one sort of central way. Now, the interface that you may have may be different, but you need to get to the same outcome at the end of the day. So whether I'm coming in through a portal, I'm a salesperson building out a proposal, or I'm coming in through the product itself, at the end of the day, it's the same product. I need to make sure that the pricing is consistent no matter what different method I come into. So I've got to make sure that's addressed. The way we're calculating revenue today is also a little bit different the way I'm coming in. If it's a consumption-based model, if it's a direct sales model, revenue, the recurring models and things of that sort. So how are those going to be adapted? So what we basically did, again, we designed the solution over time. As we've evolved the solution, we've adapted to going and supporting those different kinds of processes. So first of all, the different motions that we have. Something we often refer to as headless quoting, the ability where you can quote in the same engine, but you're coming in from a different interface. So there's no head to it, there's no front end to it that's consistent. It's coming in from your product, your PLG, from your e-commerce, from your portal over the salesperson going through that process. So we have the ability to go and allow whoever that end user may be, it's an end customer, it's a partner, it's a salesperson, to go and generate that proposal. Then we can adopt to the different ways that you're going and actually building out your solution. So are you doing recurring charges? Is it consumption charges, which is something that's growing tremendously over time. People now don't want to pay for just a license. They want to pay as they go on a consumption basis. So the solution has to adapt to that. So both in the ability of quoting it, how do I price that to the person? Because I can give a one-time price or say, here's the different pricing tiers you'll get based off of your consumption. So the CPQ on that aspect, building out the quote, can address that. When it comes to managing your revenue, you also have to calculate revenue differently depending on how that pricing is coming in. So if it's recurring costs, if it's one-time costs. And same thing when you're invoicing somebody, you need to be able to go and adapt to that as well. So that's what we've done as well, is given the ability, the capability to go and invoice based off your usage or based off your licensing costs and so forth. So really we've adapted the solution to address those different ways people are coming in, how you need to recognize your revenue, and also in terms of how you need to go and charge them for that.
Yeah, interesting. So, and of course, AI is the hot thing right now, but there's also a lot of hype around it as well. How do you separate meaningful AI that really has an impact on a company versus some of the buzzwords that are out there?
Well, I think when we look at the world of AI, AI won't replace everything, or maybe I should correct myself, not yet. There's still AIs in development. We're seeing a lot of things happening right now. So it's great to say AI can do everything. And it will do a lot of things, but there's some things that people still have to recognize that AI is not quite ready yet to do. For example, when you're building out a quote and you're pricing, there's governance around that. If you're a public company, you've got regulations around how you're allowed to price. You can't just have an AI go and say, go price at this price point, because you'll win the deal. You've got some governance around that. You've got auditors that come in. You've got legal language that has to be included. I'm selling into different countries. I'm selling different products and services. There's legal aspects around that. So it's not enough to just go say, hey, we've got AI. The goal is really to make sure that we're providing the right value within the right areas of what we can do. So there's going to be AI also as well for different users as well, as we talked about earlier. So for salespeople, I want AI that's going to help them quote easier, but it's going to put me within that framework. So maybe it's taking away the front end from that. I can just use some prompts and say, hey, can you build me out a quote? Or maybe save me some time. I'm listening to a Gong. I've just had a call recorded on Gong or some one of these other recording sessions and all that. Take that information. There's a lot. AI's already grabbed some of that insights, plug it into DealHub, and already build out a quote for me, so we can save some time. So we can get some real value out of that. Maybe AI can help me analyze what's the best pricing based off of the previous experience that we've had, so it can go and save me some time and how to go through that process and build out the right pricing that we want. From managers' point of view, reports and analytics are often very locked into what you can do, and AI is actually opening us up to get a lot of freedom to how we can go and analyze. I can just put some prompts in, go analyze this and this and this for me, and put some really strange combinations together that you wouldn't think you'd be able to put into like an analytics system, and all of a sudden the AI can go gather that information for and really analyze, the situation for me. There's things in the legal aspect. Today, what's a concern? I've got contracts out there. Am I storing them is one aspect, but how do I know what's in them? What's risky? Where did I put in some risky contractual terms in there that I need to go and keep track of and all that? So we can help out in that legal aspect. And even from a buyer point of view, what we're looking at today, we're seeing, something that we've got the ability with DealHub is to go and give them the ability through our deal rooms where I can engage with a customer in a one-on-one experience. Why not give them some additional value as well and let them go and do their own research right within my controlled environment? So tell me about your product a bit more. What's the ROI on this? What kind of value am I going to get from it? So we're really looking to make AI practical, to give you value, and not just to make it hype, and really looking at the different aspects and how we can go and utilize it that way.
Well, and as AI becomes more embedded in these quote to revenue workflows, what's your view on balancing AI versus the human decision making, especially when it comes to complex kind of decisions and deals?
Well, I think we really have to, like I said, put AI where it can help us, where it can help us the best. So one of the things we have to be very careful of as well, though, is AI can be biased. If we're going back and looking at past experience, if we haven't tuned the system right, it might give us directions that, they're not really where we want to go to. So I wouldn't say it's that we can't fully trust it. It has to be tuned properly and all that, and we're going to get to that point. Organization tools will get better and organizations will get better at tuning their systems. So we really have to be utilizing, I think, AI where it's best for us at the moment. But there's also the aspect of, at least from a sales perspective, and I worked before taking on this role a few months ago, I was the CRO for the last 10 years, and I know salespeople, and I've worked in sales for years. We want to be creative. We've got different aspects. We're looking things in different ways. So how do we go and make sure that we're being given still the creative capabilities to do that? I want AI to go and support me. So we want to be very careful about that. And like I said, we have to be also cautious. AI can't necessarily go and generate us the pricing if we've got some governance that we need to keep track of and all that. So we've got to make sure we're putting it in the right context. So there's a lot of places where AI can be used, but we've got to use it cautiously, put it in the right places where we can use it, but also leave the flexibility for it to help us and not just guide us in a direction that it may decide to go.
Sure. Now, as companies demand more composable integrated tech stacks, how is DealHub investing in that solution?
Well, one thing that solutions often do is they see themselves as an island and, basically go do a function there and come back and do it. And very much we see that we're not that's not what we have to be. We're building out a quote. We're connected to other systems. You may end your pricing in one location, but you're building out a quote in DealHub. You may have inventory in one other location, but you're building out a quote in DealHub. So we need the ability to go and connect, and we utilize it obviously with, in the technical terms, what's called open APIs, the ability to connect into DealHub, and also the ability to go and call out. So I can check inventory, I can check pricing, I can check what services are available. So I'm not just simply quoting something that's not available. DealHub is very much a part of a process. While we are building out a quote, we're integrated with other systems, so we have to do that. In the same manner that we've talked about, if we're coming in through different systems, product-led growth, I'm connecting to your system, I'm connecting to e-commerce sites, I'm connecting into different aspects of things. How do I make sure that I'm connected with all those different things? And one other aspect as well is today it's very much, if we look at the way sales structures are sort of set up, you've got data layers, you've got application layers, you've got oftentimes the AI layer sitting on top of that. While we are an application layer and AI layer, we're also generating a lot of data. And a lot of times other systems within your processes are looking at that data. So we can generate a lot of rich data and make that also available to other services as well. So again, we're not seeing ourselves as a standalone solution that doesn't connect. It's very much at different levels, whether we're building out a quote, whether we're looking at how things are being managed, where we're helping provide that data, very much have the ability to go and integrate together with other services to complete your complete revenue process.
So what is next in DealHub's product roadmap? Are there technologies or strategies that you're particularly excited about?
Well, there's a lot of things I don't know if I can share them, but there's a lot of things that we are working on right now. Obviously, I can't share everything. I think a lot of it really is going to continue to expand on what we're doing right now. I think we're on a really great path. We have multiple different products and they all have to get more capabilities. So there's all kinds of new pricing methodologies like we've talked about, and the CPQ keeps adding those new capabilities. The contract management area is a big area for us in storing and analyzing contracts. Subscription management, managing what services you have, your consumption data, your different recurring business. We're doing a lot of expansion in that area. The way we're engaging with customers through the deal room is a whole host of different capabilities that we're going to be adding on that and providing even a much richer experience. Even as I mentioned, putting AI into that, how many solutions have an AI capability designed for the buyer to go and help that? So there's areas that we're going into over there as well. So really putting a lot more depth into a lot of solutions that we have. Introducing AI, but not AI as we've talked about, not just as a buzzword, but really looking to where we can provide a lot of value. We're spending a lot of time of that with our customers, looking at what's available to provide and making sure that we're providing the right solution. So we're really expanding a lot across a lot of different areas.
Okay, Eyal, thank you so much for coming and explaining very interesting companies. So thanks for explaining DealHub and what it is you do.
All right. Thanks so much for having us today. Thank you.
Thanks.